Hello YouTube, Redbird here, back with another New World video. Today we're going to talk about the 8 new artifacts that are going to be added in the Season 4 patch and where they kind of fit in, what tier. We're going to tier them from D to, of course, S, and to see if there's any of these new artifacts that are coming into the game that are going to be worth using or building your character around. So let's hop right in here. The Unmoved Boots. Now, listen to this. You cannot be displaced, and by displaced, that just means push, pulled, knocked around, and it turns out it only works half the time. There's been a lot of testing on the PTR. I've done a lot of duels in these boots, and you can be pulled out of this area, pulled in, pushed into this area. It's strange. It doesn't work all the time. Not only that, but a lot of the moves that do displace you aren't really moves that are meta prevalent, let's just say that. Aside from the Spear of the Scorpion, really none of them are used very frequently at all, unless it's for like some sort of meme. Now, not only is that true, they are heavy boots, so you will need to be in medium or heavy to use them. And again, this is a very competitive slot. I will say that the armor slot and the artifact pool is pretty good. So it is going to take a pretty good artifact centered perk to make a piece of armor viable, and unmovable, it just isn't it. I would put this in like the D tier of artifacts. Now, it does come with a Grit Ward and Physical Aversion and a gym slot, so you will get to roll a third perk. Nevertheless, this still just is not a good artifact. I don't, like, to me, it probably would be too strong if they said cannot be, like, CC'd, and then there was, like, a stipulation maybe you can't dodge or whatever. They've done that in another artifact before. But, I mean, in its current iteration, just not good. Winged leather shoes, very, very niche piece of gear. This is basically for running around a Turnum without mounts, which ironically we have mounts now. It does come with refreshing freedom. You'll be able to roll your third perk there as well. Very strong 2 perks, but again, base duration of haste on you is increased by 50%. It's called Speedy is the perk, and not really something that you're going to use in battle or in combat. It is definitely not a PvE perk. So for that reason, I would put the winged leather shoes in the D category. Moving on to quick draw gloves. The artifact perk is quick draw. You're immune to damage for 0.5 seconds after you swap weapons. This has a 12-second cooldown. A very powerful perk in and of itself. The problem being that you are going to need to wait 12 seconds before it happens again. It's hard because if you make this like 5-second cooldown, it's broken. I understand why they made it so long. I think it could stand to be even reduced a little bit more. But, you know, again, it's in the armor slot, and the armor slot's very competitive. You are looking at, in light armor, you're looking at a lot of other different artifacts that really, you know, that stack a bunch of really good perks, like, for instance, the crit helmet, the little cone head shaped one. I'm drawing a blank on the name right now. But also, you know, you have featherweight. You have a lot of the wizard hat if you're a mage. You have a ton of other options for you that basically allow you to, you know, basically break the game as far as, you know, perks go. The helmet I was talking about was unyielding, by the way. You receive 20% less damage from crits. And then, of course, if you're a mage, you get 100% more mana, which can be kind of crazy. Sometimes you also have featherweight, like I said. So it's very competitive in this slot. The quick draw perk, while it is good, I think the 12-second cooldown part of it kind of kills the the viability of it, as well as, like, you know, we just got a Shirking Hill nerf that makes that every 10 seconds. I think Shirking Hills is in deep trouble as well. And this is even more than 10 seconds. It's 12 seconds. Matter of fact, it's 2 seconds longer. So, yeah, the quick draw gloves, although they're a cool idea, and I think if they were reduced much more, like in the 5 to 7 range, it could be broken. But in its current iteration, it is probably in the C tier, I would say. The perk itself is strong. It's not like these where they're just never going to be that viable. The actual perk text is strong. I think the cooldown on it is what makes it, you know, kind of bad. So I'll put that in the C tier for quick draw gloves. The final one is Koya's knee guards. This is a light pair of pants. The artifact perk is incoming range physical attacks deal 33% less damage to you. Now, it falls under the trend of like freedom and unyielding that are basically stacking a really good perk up to a very high level a bunch of times. Nimble Coat also does this, reduces max cooldowns by 8%. You know, these things are very, very strong. And it's really hard to take away, something that would be 8% cooldown reduction, and kind of displace that artifact spot for you in light armor in the artifact slot. This is the problem with the Koya's knee guards is it says incoming range physical attacks deal 33% less damage. That is a lot of reduction. The problem is it is simply only physical attacks, and a lot of the meta is, of course, you guessed it, fire staffs. They're blunderbuss with elemental gems in them. There are, bows, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the electric bow, but this is going to be prevalent in the meta. You have ice gauntlets, you have, void gauntlets, you have muskets with elemental gems. It's very tough to see Koya's knee guards make it past, again, some of these more prevalent light armor perks. This can be used in medium. I will note that. So that could be, could be a slot for it. But again, you also look at, you can use Void Dark Plate in medium. You can use Freedom. You can use the Unyielding Helmet. There's a lot of very powerful options for medium users as well. It just doesn't quite get there. I think if they made this physical and elemental, or like if they just said all range damage and even half the amount of percent damage was dealt, it's like 15 even % less damage from all range attacks. Like this could be like an S tier piece of artifact, because it's only range, and because it again really falls in the light category or the light pants category. I would say this is probably like a B tier artifact. It has a lot of, that perk is good, only like situationally, which makes it kind of weak. I guess this is taking a long time just to say, like, the perk is very situational, and for that reason, I think it's like in the B tier of artifacts, just because there are a lot of other artifacts that you can equip in the light to medium equip loads that are better, or like less situational, or not even situational. I mean, crits happen all the time in PvP. This reduces 20% of their damage, which again is already scaled up to an increased percent when you take crit damage. And then things like Freedom, it's just very, very powerful, especially in a game that doesn't have any CC, like diminishing returns or anything like that. So, you look through these, they're pretty powerful artifacts, and I just can't see Koya's knee guard, especially the situational nature of it, taking a spot in your build. For that reason, I would probably put it in a B. Again, if they tweak that to all ranged attacks, I think it could even get higher. Even in the A, like high A, even like low S tier, because of I think it would easily slot into the light armor slot for mages and bow users, because most of the damage that's dealt to them is at range. So it could be very powerful for them. It might even see its way into some builds if the meta kind of moves towards a more like physical bow, musket type of meta. I can see this getting used. So yeah, B tier for Koyo's knee guards. Let's move on. Well, this isn't a piece of armor, but it is a round shield. So it does fall into the armor category. It is unique because you do have to obviously have a sword shield or a flail shield equipped to use it. But its key perk is jagged spikes when you are hit in melee inflicted. When you're hit in melee range, I think is what it's supposed to say, inflict bleed on your attackers, dealing 10% weapon damage for 10 seconds. This is like Thorns. It's a pretty cool concept for a perk. The problem, I think, with it is it's on a round shield. I think it would be very, very interesting if it was on like a tower shield or something, and as a tank in both PvE and PvE. I think you are blocking, you are trying to take damage a lot, or you are taking damage a lot. And the problem with the Gladiators is on a round shield, you're usually going to wear this in light armor builds, sometimes medium, I think. Sometimes medium opt for like round shields, which makes sense because the equip rate allows them to equip more armor. But generally, I would say, in light armor especially, you're not trying to get hit. Like, you definitely want to dodge and use your iframes and stuff like that when you're in melee range or in combat in melee range. So I just think it's very situational. And again, like we said before, this does compete with armor artifacts, and there are just better ways to use your armor artifacts, in my opinion, than to use a shield that requires you to get hit to have the artifact perk activated. Now, it does have a double weapon perk, which is awesome. Diminishing Shield Bash and Fortifying Shield Rush. That's keenly empowered, and then it has Sturdy. I mean, like, Sturdy is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Not that great. So overall, actually, Sturdy is the perk you can reroll. Sorry about that. I just read that like Ron Burgundy right there. But yeah, the last perk you can reroll, so you don't have to have Sturdy on here, thank goodness. But yeah, overall, pretty strong perks on a shield. You might... maybe like if you're having trouble finding a really good round shield, I'm sure this is going to fill in really nicely if you don't have any artifact gear that you're looking for. But I would say overall, just because of the conflicting nature of it being a round shield, probably used in primarily like a light armor or sometimes medium builds, I think you're dodging attacks most of the time. I don't think there's ever a time where you want to be in melee range and intentionally taking damage. So for that reason, I put the Gladiator like in a C tier as far as like armor goes for artifacts. Moving on to the Bowcaster. Now this one's very interesting. They just made a change today on how the stopwatch works. Now it does say instead of stuns last 100% longer, it will now say that stuns last 1 second longer. Now this is very significant for the Boltcaster, because of the second perk on there, Bolt, lightning damage versus full health target, inflict a 0.5 second stun. Now, you will always open with the bow with lightning damage, with this bow particularly, and then this means you, with an opening, you will stun your target for 1.5 seconds. That is enough for you to get a significant amount of damage off if you're familiar with getting destroyed by bows. This is a little bit terrifying to know that the bow can open with a stun. The main perk on this artifact is it converts 99% of damage converted. 99% of the damage is converted to lightning, and lightning damage is increased by 20% for both weapons. Now, it's interesting because, bow rapier is a very prevalent build in the meta right now. It's extremely strong, and this kind of gives that build a second option, because obviously the finisher is very powerful, and I think a lot of bow rapier builds, or I know a lot of bow rapier builds right now are using that setup, and it's just very it's gonna be very interesting to see what which way that build goes, like as far as like the meta version of the build, because I do think that 1.5 second stun with an opening is powerful. I do think as well you're gonna see some rapier builds that scale a little bit of int with it, and now you can put a lightning gem in there. Even at 150 int, I think it becomes very interesting as far as the burst potential of rapier goes when it's getting 20% more damage. We'll see. Like, I think this weapon's very interesting. I think the opening to the stun is extremely strong. One of the downsides to this bow, though, is it has shirking lightning on it. You don't want shirking lightning on your bow. Enchanted's not bad. And then you can reroll the last perk. I would assume that what you're gonna roll on there is a gem slot, though, because it does not have a gem slot, so that's important to note as well. And that kind of leaves out like Attunement and Keenly Jagged, two perks that you'd want on your bow, and it's just kind of unfortunate that Shirking Lightning's gonna be there. But overall, I think this bow is very interesting. I think it has a lot of potential. I would probably put it like in the high B, low A tier of artifacts as far as weapons go. And if you're using bow rapier, I think you really have two choices now. If you want to use the finisher and kind of go that route, or you want to go physical damage, or if you want to use the bolt caster and kind of do an elemental version of the build. It'll be interesting to see for sure. Okay, so here's like kind of the controversial artifact, I would say, is like Vengeance. It is the life staff artifact that everybody's been waiting for. The key perk on there is Nature's Vengeance. When you successfully heal, gain 1% damage for 10 seconds, stacking up to 20 times. Pretty easy to do, especially on an AoE healer. Speaking of AoE healer, it comes with Keen Beacon and Refreshing Move, and then Enchanted for some reason. Obviously kind of leaning into the damage version of a life staff. The main problem here on the Vengeance, or one of the big problems on the Vengeance, is the fact that you're gonna have to choose between a gem slot and Blessed, the two most influential perks on a life staff, and you're gonna be missing one of them. Now, it's challenging. I think you could probably roll Blessed here, but not having a life, or not having a diamond in there is going to be a significant setback for your healing output. Of course, diamonds do 15% increased healing when at full health. Most of the time as a healer, you're probably close to full health, I would say. So you're missing 15%, or you're missing Blessed, which is, if I remember correctly, or we'll just look it up on New World Database as we speak. Obviously going to be a very significant amount of healing. So 12%. So yeah. So you're looking at 12 to 15% healing output reduction if you use Vengeance. Now, there are a lot of changes on the gems, or the gem side of things that are coming to New World during this patch. So it'll be interesting to see what builds pop up that use focus scaling on them. The amber gems, when slotted in any weapon, and focus being your highest stat, it'll now scale at 80%, which is pretty nuts. I mean, it isn't going to break the game as much as people think it will. 80%, that's a pretty significant loss to base damage. You lose 20% of a weapon's damage. But, it will be prevalent. There'll be a lot of people trying it. I think this staff is really good in, small scale, arenas, or maybe, small scale open world, even, soloing, or, soloing PvE, or, dueling, which I don't know what sane person enjoys dueling someone with a life staff. But if you can find someone to duel you with a life staff, this would be very powerful, of course, with the damage increase there. Now, this is, again, I would probably put the Vengeance in a B tier, or low B, high C. It's not going to be a healing staff. It's not going to be a primarily like dominant healing staff in the game. I think most healers will still use a regular life staff because of the lack of blessed and diamond. But again, it'll be interesting to see some builds that come up. I could see a lot of vengeance, like vengeance paladin, like medium armor, life staff, flail builds that use this life staff to kind of pump their damage on the flail. I could definitely see that. I think there'll be a lot of people doing that. I just think as a pure healer, this isn't the staff you want, and for that reason, because it's a healing staff, I would just say probably like low B is probably a pretty safe bet there. Finally is the Deep Freeze. Now this weapon is very powerful in a sense that you basically chill everybody you touch with the Void Gauntlet because of the key perk or the key passive on the left side of the tree. Ultimate Chill. Ice Gauntlet abilities chill targets. Now this doesn't work with Pylon, but I would say generally in PvP and I mean sometimes PvE, you're not using Pylon. Pylon is very good though, and I just simply don't think it'll matter. It doesn't matter that the Pylon doesn't apply chill. Even if you are using Pylon, it doesn't matter because you're going to be using Ice Storm and most likely Ice Shower. So you're applying chill to everything. That means basically everything is going to be taking 15% more damage. Very, very good very, very good in builds like IG Blunderbuss, IG Firestaff, IG VG. It's just very, very appealing for targets or all your targets to take 15% additional damage on both your front bar and your back bar. The problem with the Ice Gauntlet is it has Unbroken Winds. I don't know why they would finally deliver an Ice Gauntlet to Ice Gauntlet users and then be like, oh yeah, by the way, we scuffed it. We demand that you have one of the worst perks on an Ice Gauntlet possible. So there is that. You will get Refreshing Move as well, and then you'll have a third perk that you can reroll. It does come with a gym slot, so happy day there. But again, Unbroken Winds, pretty satch, honestly. If you're an Ice Gauntlet user, that's going to be on there permanently. Hopefully they can maybe I think to me it makes the most sense for it to be an Unending Thaw on there. Maybe if enough of us provide enough feedback until launch, maybe they can change that perk to Unending Thaw. And we all know it should be that, but unfortunately right now it's Unbroken Winds. And it kind of like tarnishes what would be like a really, really good artifact. I do think that this will be used in the meta by VG, IG, by Firestaff IG. I think some Blunderbuss IG users will use it. Pestilence is really powerful, so it's kind of hard to see, especially with the buffs to disease. It's hard to see that, those VG, BB people would switch away from Pestilence, but I think some might, and then this will be used there as well. So overall, I do think this is probably the best artifact that they're adding to the game with Season 4. I would say this is like a low A tier artifact. There are still way better artifact weapons out there, like the Finisher, like Pestilence, like Serenity. But I think this IG kind of falls up there in those higher tiers with some of the more powerful weapon artifacts, for sure. And it'll be interesting to see, obviously, if they ever change Unbroken Winds, because we all know that perk sucks, that ability sucks. Please stop forcing us to try to use it. Just rework it at this point. I just hope, we can I'll go out there after this video, leave it in the comments below. Let's change this. Let's petition to change this perk to Unending Thaw so we can all enjoy this Ice Gauntlet without any sad moments in our lives. What do we say? So there we go, guys. A tier, I would say like A, low A, mid A, low B, high C. Probably like B, just straight B. C, B for Koya's knee guards. C for quick draw, D or F, D or F. I mean, unusable, just bad tier. Just put it off the tier list. They're bad. There we go, guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that gets you hyped up for the new artifacts coming to Season 4. And you can kind of start theory crafting builds around these weapons. I think Vengeance will be a really fun weapon to build around. So will Deep Freeze and Bullcaster. These three are definitely exciting to have them finally kind of flesh out or round out the artifact weapons in the game. And we'll be able to look forward to the next season, hopefully adding like a second version or an alternative version to all these weapons. I love the artifact system, and I'm excited to see more. And it was fun to talk about these with you guys. All right, guys. Well, there you have it. All the artifacts ranked. Hopefully that was helpful for you to use in your theory crafting for builds coming to Season 4 when this patch hits live. Again, guys, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscription button, the notification bell for more New World content like this. Check out studioloot.com for all of our builds, all of our guides that we put up for New World. And then hit me up on Twitch, twitch.tv/redbird. We stream New World over there live Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes Fridays right now. So don't forget to check me out over there as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video.